How do you balance creativity and science in your role as the musical scientist?
I think let me first share with you how I got the name of musical scientist in the first place. Now my mom was a teacher, so growing up, my mother had me take a lot of extra lessons. I had music and speech and drama that I can remember, and other things like judo and horse riding, etc. But from the age of 4 years old, I took music lessons, played the piano. And so art was very much part of my life from a very, very young age. And I think in terms of talent, when it comes to musical talent or artistic talent, my mom's side of the family was very strong with that. Every single member of the family, but funnily enough, not my mother. My mother was tone deaf, but all her siblings and my grandparents, all the family members from her side, they all played a musical instrument or they sang really well. So my granddad, for instance, outside church or when church was over, he used to stand up on a crate and sing for coins when he was growing up, when he was a little boy. And apparently, he had this really, even as a youngster, he had a very deep baritone voice that everybody fell in love with. So there's that very strong artistic side, I'd say, in my genes. Yeah. And on my dad's side of the family, they're the logical ones. So they're a family of scientists, doctors, pharmacists. My dad himself was actually an industrial chemist, and he worked as an industrial chemist for his whole. Well, he actually studied medicine. To be frank, he studied at a medical school in Cape Town many years ago. Okay. And that's where he met my mom. Dropped out, and that's a love story for another day. I'm not going to get into that. But having said all of that, so having grown up with sort of both strong artistic influence and then a strong scientific influence, and obviously genetically, that's how I'm made up. When it came to choosing subjects in high school, it was like a no-brainer for me. I was going to take music because I'd been studying it for so long, and it was a straight A subject, easy for me, all the way up to matric, like a real bumper. But then again, I also liked science, so I took science as well. And so while I was in school, I was the school soloist. I had the lead role in all of the theatre productions that we did in school. But I was also very good at the project side of science. So whenever we need to do a project for science, I would, that was my opportunity to bring the creativity out and think out the box, even while I was still learning, to try and bring my own twist to things or my own flavor to something. And my science projects, for whatever reason, always used to disappear. I always wanted to take them back home, so I can put them on display somewhere, but they would disappear. I never saw them again. So obviously, either the teacher liked them or somebody liked them. And
someone had their eye on them.
Somebody had an eye on this thing and it used to go. But yeah, before you go thinking I'm a total nerd, because I like people to know the whole picture. I was also the 100-meter sprint champion of my school. So I was a weird and strange character growing up. I had this artistic side and the scientific side, and then a very competitive side to me. I just love to win. And when I was in those starting blocks of the 100-meter sprint, all I could see was that finish line and fresh air in front of me. Nobody else in front of me. And I think that desire to win and to succeed is still in me. So all of those elements actually is what makes Adrian who he is, I suppose. And when it came to coming up with the concept of the Mach, visualizing it and going through all of those phases, and initially it's a very ecstatic phase when you first get the idea and you think, this is it, this is beautiful, this is going to work. And that's probably, and we get this right, that's the right side of the brain, the creative side. That's coming up with all of that. And then, I give it a night to sleep on it, and then the next morning the left side of my brain wakes up and all the logical, practical things come into it. So the whole idea sort of gets trimmed down to size.
Yes.
And then I go on and then I build on that and I get another idea, a very bright idea and excited. And then the left side comes in again and said, okay, but have you considered? It was almost like I'm having conversations with myself.
Yes.
The right brain, left brain, the right brain coming up with the ideas, the left brain trying to see whether will that actually work in the real world. And there are many iterations of that, many cycles of going through these phases of sort of discovery and then being very realistic about it, until I came up with the final working model of the Mach, and here we have one right in front of us, a scaled down model of a Mach reactor.
Sure.
It actually does work, fits into a
Wow.
laboratory test rig. So I don't know how well you can see that, but yeah, it's pretty small. For me, going through that whole process, at no point was failure actually an option. I knew that it was just a matter of hard work and time, and success would be mine.
Awesome, awesome. So much like the Mach, we've got this very balanced individual, so creative, competitive, logical, and that's actually what the Mach is. This very creative piece of machinery that has only but logic in it, because it's the scientific thing, and it's inspired by nature, which is the biggest creativity we have actually.
Precisely.
Okay.
Exactly that. So there is that softer, compassionate element to it, in that we try not to, we don't harm the environment. So there's a sustainability element to the Mach reactor as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.